Hey lambs, Kai is back for your comments episode. This is the episode where whatever comment you've left across the web, I go ahead and read it. Well, the ones I could find anyway. I go ahead and read it and, answer it if there's an answer to it. So before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lamb Patreons. www.patreon.com/Love and Murder. With their donations, they help fund Love and Murder, and thank you so much. So appreciative of that. If you want to become a sponsor of Love and Murder, then head on over to Lamb Patreon at patreon.com/Love and Murder and go ahead and become a Patreon lamb over there. So let's get into your comments. I know I've been teasing that, there's a couple comments that I do want to talk about because I want to answer it and explain, even though I explained it in the episode, it basically annoyed me for a couple days and everything like that. So we will leave my bitching and moaning for the end of this episode. Let's start off with the good. And let's move forward. So the first one I want to talk about is the episode of Jamie Leigh Gunn. That was the mother who left her babies in a car while she went into a bar. The car was open, running, and in the back of the bar. So make sure you check that Kai Rants out if you haven't. I put a poll out of should she get her kids back? Because some people were saying she shouldn't, and I just wanted to know what y'all have to say. So it ended up being 50-50. Half said yes, half said no. So an even split. I think to not upset the kids because there was nothing else going on in the house, she should get her kids back, but with supervision or something like that. If you don't agree with that, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The next comment comes from, I guess this is another poll, from the case of Tucker Cipriano. If you didn't listen to that one, that's episode 117, I believe. I just checked. It was episode 119, actually. So the question was, do you think he did this because of jealousy or drugs? Was he jealous of his brothers or was he just high on drugs? And 100% of you chose jealous of his brothers. The next poll is for the case of pedophile Richard Gross. If you didn't listen to that one, that was a Kai's Rants from this week. And it was pedophile Richard Gross. Go back and listen to it, but what ended up happening was his victim, let's say one of his victims, I don't even know if this is the only one. One of his victims punched him in court, and they arrested him, the victim, and charged him with a misdemeanor. So my question was, do you think Tyler should have been charged with anything? And 100% of y'all said no, which I agree. They should have just left him, let him wail on that old man. Ruined his life just because he's old. Really, you ruined this man's life. Next, so now getting into some comments, and these couple of comments coming up is someone went way back. So basically, I want to thank you for binging the podcast. First of all, this is for the case of Sara Lynn Kreuger, which was episode 84. So if you haven't listened to that, go all the way back to episode 84. I can't remember if Sara was with me still back then, if I still had a co-host. But if you are binging the episodes, I do want to apologize for the sound quality and everything back in the day. Look, I was new to this, still learning. I'm still learning now. You can see sometimes I have new episodes coming out, new segments, whatever. I'm still learning. One day I will get it just right, and then we'll be golden. But back then I was still learning, so I didn't have a good mic, didn't know about editing the podcast, like the sound quality, anything like that. So thank you for trudging through that sound quality. Apologies for it, but still, thank you so much. So episode 84, Float Like a Butterfly says, this was from my hometown. I knew them all and babysat that little girl many times. This will forever haunt me. She was slamming dope while pregnant with Kaylee. I remember doing the most to be arrested just to go into Napa County Jail during the same time period Sara was there. We had her beaten and rolled up every chance we had. Wow. CPS and Napa County dropped the ball when it came to this little girl. Should have been taken years prior to what happened. As far as Slusher fam go, shit was a shit show. His whole family was nuts, all the way to his grandparents. When this all came to light, Jason was dating this girl, Jessica. Sweet girl, but also on drugs and not all there. Jessica stood by him for years until the trial. Then she realized he very much had a part of that girl's suffering. Wow, thank you for that comment. And thank you for going all the way back and listening. It's interesting to hear from people who actually knew the perpetrators or even the victims. It's very interesting to hear from you and hear what actually happened behind the scenes that, wasn't actually reported on. All right, next comment. Another oldie but goodie, and also thank you for binging. This comes from the case of Kevin Anthony Havelow Jr., a man who murdered his grandmother. This was episode 65. So Kimmy Main says, it's quite unfortunate how uneducated the public is about Kevin. He was my best friend and he always will be leading up into the event. He actually did live with his girlfriend and they had a very bad breakup and she posted naked pictures of him all over the internet. It says what she tried to go away. I guess when she tried to go away and get help with his depression. What? Okay. She said what she tried to go away and get help with his depression. I'm going to say when he tried to go away and get help with his depression because of it, he started staying back at home with his mom and grandmother and getting his head clear and out of a toxic relationship. So a scumbag who was like, oh, just smoke some stuff with me. Let's smoke a blunt. And it was actually laced with PCP. He never raped nobody, but he was indeed found naked and bloody. I can't say much because I don't know what's going on with the case as of right now because I had to talk to detectives. They had to swipe my whole phone. And the sad part is that I actually had journalists contacting me, wanting me to tell them some juicy lie. And they're like, we don't care if it's true or not. Just make it sound crazy so we can report it. And the truth is, Kevin was a great person. He took great care of his grandmother. His sister misses and loves her brother. His mom, Miss Wanda, is one of the most strongest, beautiful women I know. This story is so way off. I'm sorry. That's what the media fed you. He was ex-military, so that's why he was very invested in two different things that came to the army. You guys really took that one and made him look insane, which really, that's what he lived for. He wanted to serve. He wanted to live for others, and that was his devotion. His whole life was to serve others, and unfortunately, he got laced with a bad drug, and he regrets it every day. I still talk to Kevin, so there's certain things that I don't feel comfortable allowing the public to know, because no matter what, they're going to think he's that horrible human being. And the only thing I can suggest is until you go through this, you wouldn't understand how it feels to have a best friend face in prison time for something so unfortunate and out of his nature. So this whole narrative is completely wrong. All right, Kimmy, thank you so much for your message. And this is the kind of comments that I would prefer as opposed to the ones that we're going to get into in the case of Ellen Greenberg, because she did recognize that it was through research that I got all this because I don't know any of these people. So it was through the research, through what was put out. I can only go by that, police notes and everything like that, based on case notes, court notes, what they're saying that the perpetrator said, what they're saying that witnesses said. That's all I can report on because it's not like I'm there. It's not like I was there when this happened. It's not like I actually spoke to the person. So Kimmy did point that out in her comment. And I'm really sorry, Kimmy. And also, if this is true, Kevin, that this is what they're just trying to showcase the case as is like he's crazy. But, I have to say allegedly because I can only go by the case. So either one is alleged. But the fact remains he did murder someone. So whether it was because of bad drugs or because he just did it without drugs, he would have needed to be somewhere for a short time. So he would have probably needed to be in a mental institution to get himself together, but it still would have been it still would have been like a penitentiary style mental institution. So either way, he probably would have been in jail. I could be wrong. If you have any other ideas or you think of anything else, message in. I really want to hear from you. I'm just one person. I could be wrong. Never said I'm always right. All right. So thank you for that, Kimmy. So now we're going to get into the case of Ellen Greenberg, which is the reason why I'm pulling Rants from general rotation. You'll get one Kai Rants in your midweek mini, but other than that, it's not going to be like a daily or semi-daily thing anymore. That's going to be in the Patreon, where you can get Kai Rants at only the $3 a month donation tier. So you'll get everything that tier offers, which is you get commercial-free episodes. It comes without the intro, so you get to the heart of the episode immediately. And also, you get all the extras of the case. So like pictures, evidence files, case files, courtroom documents. I may read the proceedings of the court documents to you. Videos, police interrogation videos, court videos, anything that's extra that comes with the case. So you already got all of that for $3 donation. Plus now you get extra episodes, which is now daily Kai Rants. So if you want all that, just come on in, patreon.com/love and murder. As I keep telling you, I'm trying to get to a goal of 500 by the end of 2024, 500 Lamb Patreons by the end of 2024. And obviously that will help me. And, you know, not only is your $3 helping me, but you get all these extras as well. So I'm going to get into this, and then I'm going to finish this episode on a more happy note. So the case of Ellen Greenberg, which was actually it wasn't an episode number. It was a Kai Rants. It was put out October 25th. So in the poll that I put out, I asked y'all, do you think this was a suicide or a homicide? And the Lambs came back and said 100% homicide. And now let's get into the comments. Yamaka says, a little bit of research goes a long way. If you listened to the episode, you would have understood what happened, Yamaka. All you had to do is listen to the episode. But I'll go ahead and explain again what happened, but let me finish going through the comments. Cindy S. 9858 says, and Cindy, I hope this isn't Cindy Lou. I hope it's not my Lamb Patreon Cindy Lou, which I don't think so. Anyway, Cindy S. says, I'm sorry, but you are doing a horrible job covering this case. So many things you already got wrong, and I'm only 12 minutes in. Well, let me stop you right there, Cindy. Maybe you should have continued listening to the episode, and you would have found out exactly why this was happening. Continuing what Cindy said. Right now, for instance, you're saying the neuropathologist examined the body. Supposedly, she examined the spinal section, not the body. Second, there is zero evidence she even examined it. She does not recall examining it. There is no evidence of any bill or payment for her services, as she is a third party and even the signature does not match hers. The medication she was taking means nothing. You say it is a side effect. Well, First Meds lists 3,000 things as possible side effects. A side effect of life is possible suicide, for crying out loud. Millions upon millions of people take the meds and do not kill themselves. More likely scenario, as they say, correlation does not equal causation, is people get depressed and have suicidal ideation. They go to their doctor for help, they prescribe something, they still kill themselves. Was it the meds, or they were suicidal to begin with? Study of over 25,000 people that had attempted suicide or had ideations were all prescribed Ambien. Well, they took Ambien. That explains it, right? Wrong. They were prescribed Ambien because of okay, whatever. Look, I'm not the one who came out with a study on Ambien. This is what I heard about Ambien. This is what the research is telling me about Ambien. I'm not going to now go in and nitpick the research for a true crime podcast to say, well, maybe the people who are taking Ambien were suicidal in the first place, and now they're going back and reporting that it was Ambien. I'm not a medical show. Anyways. So she continues going in about how, whatever, the Ambien. Continuing on with what Cindy said. Yes, she has been taking it as prescribed. There's zero evidence it caused her to kill herself. I remember when all the talk about Ambien being dangerous came about. People made claims about it causing them to commit crimes. Well, of course, the suspect is going to use anything they can as a defense, and we do not just take their word. Just like we do not take the massively suspect Sam's word. Okay. Those were the comments on Ellen Greenberg. And I thought there was another one, but I guess I couldn't find it. I could have swore there was another comment on Ellen Greenberg, basically telling me how little I researched and I need to do better and all this stuff. Okay, so number one, the reason this irritated me so much was all you had to simply do was listen to the episode. I recorded this episode in 2 parts and made it into just one episode. I made that abundantly clear when the second part came. Now, if you were paying attention, I said that when I searched for her name these cases came up. These articles came up. They very fleetingly mentioned Sam, which if they're just saying her boyfriend Sam was there, or her boyfriend Sam is mourning her, or something like that. They very fleetingly mentioned him. It was no reason that just popped in my head that said, hey, let me look up this Sam guy. It was just like if they very fleetingly mentioned a neighbor. That's number one. So I was going off of the articles that came up. I don't write the articles. I'm just a true crime podcaster who relays what I've researched. So I don't know why you're coming after me. Secondly, if you heard what I said, when my husband heard me recording, he's familiar with this case. And also as Rants is a really quick just rundown. It's not my deep dive episodes that I do on Sundays. Rants has just come in, do this. And the reason I saw it was because I think the parents had just lost another case to try and overturn the suicide ruling. And so that came up. And I didn't know how deep down the rabbit hole this case went. I'd never heard of it before. So my husband, who's from Philly, knew this case. And he was like, wait, why isn't she getting fired up? That was his first cue because he knows I would have gotten fired up. So he's like, why isn't she getting fired up? So he really listened. And then he was like, do you know what happened in this case? And I told him. He was like, no, so much more. So when he then told me that, I researched her name again. And again, it's these articles that just popped up, barely mentioning her boyfriend and just saying what I had told you in the first part of the case. Now, if I delve deeper, you go to page 3 of the search, that's when it starts saying something about her boyfriend. I don't know. The algorithm could have changed by now because of this episode and everybody was going in there and looking. I'm not sure. But when I was researching it, that's what it was. So the question should be, why was it being deleted off of the internet? Not coming for me, the true crime podcaster who's literally just reading what she saw. So don't tell me about research goes a long way. And that's another reason I wanted to just put it behind the scenes for my Lamb Patreons, because anybody who knows me and believes in me enough to go ahead and donate to me knows how much of a deep dive I go into cases when I research my cases. I get a lot of true crime heads telling me that, ooh, I knew this case. I didn't even know about this part. I never heard about this part. I never saw these pictures. I really do a deep dive when I'm researching. So if you're just coming in and you listen to 12 minutes and then you want to sit here and write me a whole book of how much I don't research, then you don't know me at all and you didn't listen to the episode. So like I said, your question shouldn't be towards the true crime podcaster. Your question should be why was this being deleted from the internet? Secondly, for me to even find anything on Sam, like I said, under her name, I had to even go to page 3 of the search history. And if you wanted to find anything on Sam, you had to search his name. Again, why in any article that came up about her were they just briefly mentioning him like, oh, Sam's here, and that was it? It should have been a whole section on how, a lot of people think he did it or he was accused or whatever. Whatever he said, whatever he did, this didn't make sense. It should have been a whole section on that. Instead, it was just a fleeting mention of his name. So anyway, I searched his name. When his name comes up, the research for his name comes up, it's literally a whole line of conspiracies. So of course, whenever you hear the word conspiracy, you think crazy people, which I do not like that connotation attached to the word conspiracy because it means you don't agree with the general public, so now you're crazy. So it's a whole line of true crime podcasters and everybody else who's saying this is what they think happened, and they have it under the genre of conspiracy theory. Then sprinkled in there, just a little kind of, couple articles from the news. So I usually mainly go from news articles, from case files, from the police case files, stuff like. I don't go to other true crime podcasters or true crime bloggers, and I'll say 90% of the time I don't. Sometimes I do. Depends on what's in there, because I'm not taking their opinion to then regurgitate and spin it as fact. You see what I'm saying? So if I just came across a bunch of true crime podcasters, true crime bloggers, and what they think happened, I'm not really 10%. I might go by that. 90%. I'm not going by that. So then the question is, why was this the main thing that came up when you searched his name? It should have been a bunch of articles from news sources that came up, police reports that came up. But instead, you're coming for me, and I'm not the one scrubbing the internet of this. So maybe you should go after those people and leave me the alone. However, my annoyance came in the fact that I literally said all this in the episode. But instead of listening and comprehending, y'all took to the internet to come and tell me how much I didn't research. I guess give me a whole run up on Ambien, which again, I'm not a doctor. I can only go by what the case files say about Ambien. So I don't know why you took all your time to write that whole book to me. Maybe you should write the people at Ambien, because you writing to me about what Ambien and suicide and everything says. What am I going to do with that information? Maybe you should write to them. But I guess it's easier to come after the true crime podcaster than it is to go after a multi-billion-dollar company. So anyways, that's what happened with that. And it annoyed me because I know my lamb Patreons, they wouldn't have come at me like that. Even if they thought that I didn't research it, they would have come at me in a different manner. Like, for instance, saying, Kai, I know you really research your stuff. Did you have an off day today or something? Something like that. Because I'm not adverse to criticism. I'm adverse to assholicism. That's what I'm adverse to. So there was a completely different way you could have come at it. First of all, listen to the entire episode. Second of all, put your thinking cap on. And third of it, come at me a different way. So because I don't want to stay in that negative headspace, then I'm just pulling all Kai Rants and putting it behind my Patreon wall, except for Wednesdays, but it wouldn't be episodes like this. And the reason I did it like this was so y'all could see. I thought it was just interesting to see the process of, I researched this, it was nothing there. And then based on somebody who knew what happened, I had to really dig in and really look for articles on what actually happened. Which then makes you think, why is this being scrubbed? So I thought the way I put it out was very interesting to make y'all think and be like, oh my God, that's crazy. But no, my lamb Patreons would have gotten it and did get it. And, some people outside of lamb Patreons didn't. But so if ever an episode happens like that again, I will simply put it behind my lamb Patreon and scrub it for everybody else and just put out a regular episode, what that was really, really researched, or if it's a midweek mini, that's really short, and, that's it. If you want to get those kind of episodes that makes you say, why is this happening? Or you can see the actual process of me going through, oh my God, this is really like some stuff that we really need to look into, then you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder. Now, I want to thank you for your comments, as annoying as they were. And I'm just only talking about the people who left those annoying comments under Ellen Greenberg. Everybody else, thank you so much for your comments, even if it was criticism, because I do get criticism in my comments. And like I said, as long as it's criticism, not assholicism, I'm fine with it. Now let's get into some happier comments to finish out this episode. All right, Tansis100. Y'all have been getting on me since this episode came out about how to pronounce her name, and I am so sorry. Thank you so much. You actually spelled it out for me. Everybody is just like, oh, pronounce her name properly. Oh, Okay. Her name is Shanquella Robinson. So forgive me for saying it because I kept saying Shankella. Forgive me for saying it incorrectly, and thank you so much, Tansis, for letting me know. Ruth Johnson. When I was sick, I put out an episode letting y'all know that I was sick. Cases were coming out tomorrow, and she said, welcome. Thank you. Another one who just said, I like you, you're so good, I would subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. I'm not just going to gloss over that. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really, really like that positive comment, positive feedback. Thank you. Ruth Johnson. Ruth, you're on fire. She was commenting on A Deadly Inheritance, the case of the North Dakota woman poisoning her boyfriend because he was supposedly getting a $30 million inheritance. Y'all got to listen to that one. That was the last 2 Kai Rants. Oh my God. The twists and turns in that was absolutely crazy. So listen to the first one and then listen to the update of that one. But anyway, Ruth Johnson said, very sad, greedy young lady. And I could not agree with you more. Greed is a terrible thing. And when you listen to the update, woo. All right. And that's all your comments for the last 2 weeks. Keep them coming. Keep your comments coming. Like I said, even if it's criticism, I'm not adverse to criticism. I am adverse to assholicism. So even if it's criticism, I said something wrong, I misspelled or mispronounced a name, maybe you heard something else in the case, something, let me know. I am not perfect. I do not claim to be perfect. I do not even pretend to be perfect. Sometimes I do something wrong. I am only human. So I do want to hear from you. If you want to correct me, correct me. If you have good things to say about the episode, say it. If you have anything to add to the episode, let me know. I love to hear from y'all. So to wrap it up, don't forget to go to Patreon, become a Lamb Patreon. You can start off at $3 a month donation. There are other tiers, but I'd love to see you back there. Patreon.com/love and murder. And starting next week, we're going to be starting tomorrow, we're going to be doing the full episodes on Sundays and back to the midweek minis on Wednesdays. I want to thank you all, even for the ones that annoy me. I want to thank you all for listening to Love and Murder and supporting my podcast. This is the internet. I understand that some people are going to annoy me. You also have to understand that I have to protect my mental space, and I will. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for joining me. If you have any comments on this episode, let me know in the comments below and I'll be reading it off in about another 2 weeks. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.